Howdy, howdy. In today's comic review, I am taking a look at Horseman #1. Got the homage throwback cover here, whatever. I guess it's a throwback. It's not an homage to anything. Horseman #1, back to action. This is actually the second Horseman book. The first one was a one-shot. This is an official kickoff to the Horseman run. And I'm going to do this review in my usual 3 parts. I'm going to talk a little bit about the book itself and just give my overall first impressions, non-spoilery, not even going to open it up. Then we're going to go into light spoilers, just look at the first quarter, maybe third of the book, talk a little bit more about the story and the setup. And then for the Rippaverse nerds, the Horseman nerds, we'll go into heavy spoilers, talk about some story elements. And I do believe there's something. I've seen a little bit of talk on X. I've watched a couple of videos, and I think there's something huge that people are missing, a huge revelation that I'm having. And I don't know if it's right or not, but I think there's a big red herring. There's a big twist coming, and it's really going to twist the knife. So if you want to talk about that, stay to the very end. If not, then I'll give you the out points as we get to the different parts of the review. So I do try to review indie comics on Friday. If you want to see more videos like that, hit the subscribe button down below. Starting off with my non-spoiler review of The Horseman. The Horseman is everything great that I love about Chuck Dixon's writing, about the world that the Rippaverse is setting up, but it's also still everything I don't like about the house art direction of the book, as well as just a few editorial things that are just not quite hitting the consistency that I want to see in a universe being built. The story itself it picks up right after Welcome to Flores Park, and it keeps up with the fantastic characterization that is Hector Caballos and the Caballero, and the kind of person that he is becoming, the kind of person that he has to figure out who he is, and where he fits in with this new post-war world. You get a little bit of a glimpse of his war history. You get a few pages about what he did in the war or in battle, and the kind of action that he saw, as well as how he's adjusting to life after. There's a movie, and I can't remember the name of it, and I should have looked it up before the video, but it's the bomb squad guy that goes out and disarms bombs and stuff, and then gets called back home, and he's on reprieve, and he has to figure out how he fits into the world. And the world in the army or the military is totally different than civilian life. What was it? Not Full Metal Jacket. What was? Anyway, someone tell me in the comments below what the movie I'm thinking of. But it's very much along that line of he was good at what he did, and what he did was a very unique job that's really only suited for the military. So how do you fit into that life as a civilian? Not only that, in Horseman Welcome to Flores Park, he's basically shut down. His vigilantism, he was doing some good stuff. Now, he wasn't doing good things, but he was doing good things with the community. He was shutting that down, but then he was shut down by Alpha Corps. And, it's kind of you can see both sides. He was the vigilante that the community needed. He was providing for his family, but it was also the morally gray, you may even say morally wrong way of going about it. And Alpha Corps had to shut it down because eventually it could come back at him, right? I mean, the reason why, like or not, police, constables, the military, whatever, the reason why they can do what they can do is because they have certain accountability, or at least they should have accountability to make sure that there are no T's that are missed, no I's that aren't dotted, no people are unnecessarily put into a bad place. And you can actually see an example of that in this book. So I think that's a really good storytelling. Chuck is continuing to write a fantastic character, and Joe Bennett is continuing to deliver some really great action scenes. Everything great about this book is basically everything great about every Rippaverse book so far. The universe being built is alive and breathing. There's real stakes, there's real characters, and you can kind of see both angles, or at least I can see both angles of both why this character needs to be doing the way their heroism, the way they need to be doing it, but also what makes it kind of risky, right? So I think there's some great writing here by Chuck, and it really fits into the Rippaverse very well. My only criticism is, again, the usual criticism I have with the Rippaverse and the stylization that they have with the coloring, as well as some of the art choices. Now, getting into this book, when I first opened it up, I thought it was a really good sized book. It's not a big honker like ISOM 3. It's not nearly as big as the Horseman issue 1, which was closer to 90 pages, maybe just over 100 pages. This one sits around 60 or 70. I didn't sit here and count it, but just holding it, it's your typical 4 or 5 issue trade size. And I think that's a great size. But as you'll see, if you continue to watch Into the Light spoilers, full splash pages still suffer from that heavy spine. And that is partly on me because I don't like breaking my spine. And so because of my personal choice to keep my spine, I've read this book twice, and you can see I still got a nice solid spine. There's very little cracking or breaking here because I just want to be gentle with my books. That's just how I am with my books. That's how my mom raised me. I want to be gentle, so I don't want to crack and flatten the book like I would a newspaper. And so those huge spreads that Joe Bennett is doing, and he takes them very moderately in this one. I think if I remember right, there's only 3, maybe 4, because I'm forgetting one, full page spreads, which is a little bit less than what the typical Rippaverse book has. But it's still, I think a trade like this from the main would probably have 8 or 10. But when Joe Bennett just has to do a splash page, it deserves it. But it still suffers because a lot of the splash page gets stuck in the spine, and you just can't enjoy it as much. So I'll show you some of that in the light section. And then the coloring. And this is something, if you've watched my Rippaverse videos, you know that I am a fan of deep black inks, real heavy inking, very classic style inking. We don't have that in this book. I think Bennett does his pencils very loose, and I'm not an artist, so I have a surface level understanding of how comic book art goes. But I think he keeps a very loose pencil, and they go in and really finalize it, do a lot of detailing in the inking. But then they ink it a little too light, and so a lot of the coloring ends up standing out. And I think a lot of the detail is lost with the coloring, especially because we have this modern coloring. I think Gabe Al-Taib did it better in ISOM 1, and the people that are taking it over now, they're just not as, I can't describe it. I'd have to do a side-by-side someday. But it still comes off too soft. I think there's a lot of good detail in here, a lot of good artwork in here that just gets overlooked because it's just way too soft. Even this here, I think if we go deeper into the inks and a little more contrast in the colors, be a little less bright here, get some more contrast on the firing, I think it could really, really pop. And so a lot of the artwork I think is just bland. When you get halfway through the book, a lot of it just starts to blend together, especially with the framing choices, which are good choices. I have nothing wrong, no problem with the framing choices, but a lot of it starts to look real together. Compounded by the fact that this is a launch issue. It's a little less typical of Chuck Dixon as I've been reading more and more about Chuck Dixon. I think his number ones, his first arcs are much more action-packed than this one. There's a lot of scene setting, and I think Chuck can do that because he spends a lot of that introduction action in the Welcome to Flores Park trade, whereas this is almost spiritually like getting into the second arc, the issue 7, 8, 9, where you're getting a little bit more into that Empire Strikes Back, into a little more of the headspace of the second arc of a series. So I think he's doing a lot of expositional setup here. In the introduction, he even says he's already got 100 stories planned. He's already working on number 3, which is great because by the time number 1 hits, especially if you're doing a monthly, they should be on issue 6, 7, 8. So the fact that this is hitting and he's already done with 2 and he's already finishing up 3, I think that's good. I think we should be getting at least 2 Horsemans a year. I don't think that's a big ask, but I think we definitely need at least 2 Horsemans a year. At least at this thickness, and I'll tell you why. Because the last thing I'll say before we get into the light spoilers is this ends on a cliffhanger, but not the kind of cliffhanger that you want it to end on. I'm a big fan of the floppy. I'm a big fan of the serialized storytelling, and I think a lot of people don't like it when you're just constantly ending with cliffhanger after cliffhanger. But I think you want to end with a cliffhanger that says like, man, what's he going to do next? How is this going to work? Like, it's like when you used to watch TV and there was a commercial break, they leave you with something like, how is Batman going to get out of this? How is the people on the island going to deal with this other person? Or what is this? What is that cave in the Lost Island? Or, what is Marshall going to do now that Lily found out, right? Like there's great pauses in the action to get you wanting more. But the way Chuck cuts off the ending here, it really is a cutoff. It almost seems like when you would watch TV and there was an hour-long special, but it was obviously 2 episodes, but they would just go right into one another. And so you can watch it as an individual episode, but you have to go right into episode 2. It ends kind of like The Matrix 2. When you had The Matrix, then The Matrix with the Keymaker, and then it ends with Neo, like, he controls the robots in real life, and it just ends and you're like, what? Like, what is going on? Kind of just ends like that, just ends in the middle of an action scene. And I didn't like that. I don't mind getting blue-balled when it comes to like oh my gosh, how is he going to get out of that in the next issue? But it literally just ends as the action's just starting to pick up. So I thought that was an interesting choice. I'll sit with it for a little bit longer, but yeah, I think there was a better way to end it. At least not a better way. I can't say that because Chuck's a legend. But if there's a way that I would have preferred to see it end, and we can talk about that in a minute. So overall, the writing is solid. The writing is my favorite part. There's a lot of character development. And I'm not saying you have to know this going into it, but appreciating it for the second arc that it is, The Empire Strikes Back, as it is. If this is a comic series, this would be issues 6, 7, 8, 9, where you're really getting into a little bit of a twist of, what's the character going to do next? How is he going to resolve this internal conflict? As another internal conflict is brewing in the background almost. The writing is rock solid. The art is just my typical Rippaverse complaint, where the ink's not deep enough. The paper's a little too glossy, which really just makes the colors blend way too much. But that's a big thing with like a lot of modern comics. But overall, the art is still very serviceable. The action's still great. I love the character development. And there's just a couple editorial things that it's like, all right, we need to be like, I would expect it from Kickstarter stuff, like where there's like 1 or 2 guys working on it. But since Eric has a team on this, I think there's just a few more things we need to be catching. So overall, I'd give this still a solid B. Definitely did not enjoy it as much as Horseman #1. Of course, Alpha Core is like the king standard. Like Alpha Core is the 10 out of 10 for me. It's not there. I'm enjoying it just as much as Horseman #1. I mean, a little less than Horseman #1, but just as much as Good Ink, Bloodruth, all those. Still enjoy it more than all the Isoms. So overall, I still give it a solid B. 8 out of 10, 3.5, 4 out of 5. And if we're going down to 5 stars, we're going to get closer to 3.5 or 4 stars out of 10. So that's what it is. Now we're going to go into light spoilers, where I open up the book just a little bit, talk a little bit more about the story being set up, and then we'll go into heavy spoilers. And I appreciate you guys dealing with me in the living room here, because I'm letting my daughter have the office to play with her friends. So light spoilers incoming. All right, so looking at the book here, we get a nice introduction from Chuck. I thought this was interesting. Again, a little editorial thing. It's signed by Chuck, but he talks about himself in the third person. So it's almost like this was inserted, but not by Chuck, which I thought was interesting. Here we go. I realized that the Horseman, welcome to Flores Park, raised lots of questions in your minds about this character. All this will be explained as Dixon and Bennett delve deeper into what makes Hector Caballero tick, as well as creating. So like, it sounds like, I thought like, oh, maybe Eric's writing this or someone else, but no, it's signed by Chuck. So I don't know. That seems like an odd choice. I'm wondering if editorial put that in. You get into the art, and again, beautiful art. I love this first page. When I saw this first page, I was like, oh, we are rocking on all cylinders here. And then we get to the splash page. This is the first splash page. Now this one doesn't suffer as much because this one doesn't put anything important in the middle. You've got Hector's team coming out of the truck in the background here. You got the bad guys on the left. You got the truck on the right. So this splash page did not bother me. This is not what I was talking about. So good splash page, good art direction on this one, or just good choice on the art. So you get to see a little bit of Hector's past, his old crew that he used to run with, the Horsemen, so to speak. They were Army Rangers, I'm assuming, or Texas Rangers. I'm not sure what you would call them, but they were like the best of the best, sir. And so they were really good. And then Hector briefly talks about how each of them died. I think there's something going on with this guy, but I'll get into it later in the heavy spoilers. And then you learn that he's still dealing with, post-military civilian life. He's still having trouble adapting. You find out that he's got a day job at essentially like an Amazon fulfillment company. And, he's trying to figure out his place. He's still living with his sister and his nephew. Here's him working his job. So you see the art, it looks good. And I think there's some good art here. This panel, I think, is what a good panel could be. This panel, things get a little bit softer. I mean, a little bit better because, you know, it could be softer, but since it's got a harsh light source, I think he's nailing that. But then we get to stuff like this, like that's just too, all this is too, I don't know what the word is. We need to continue with that harsh lighting and we just lose it. So it becomes a little too soft. We got a lot of dialogue here, but this is a very dialogue issue heavy, but not much, we'll stop here. Not much is lost in the way of dialogue. Like there's nothing needless, and all of it plays a point to tell you that Hector is struggling to, you know, find purpose, get a hold of like, feel more meaningful in his work, right? And even, they even talk about how he wants to move up in his work, but he's suffering from that. He does such a good job as a I don't know, order packer or box mover. I don't know. He wants to be a driver, a truck driver. That's him driving his car, not his truck. I was confused about that at first. But he wants to be a truck driver, and his boss is like, no, like I'd have to hire 5 guys to replace the amount of brute force that you have. So no. And he's like, now get back to work, right? So, I mean, he's kind of working that dead end job. And then he sees this billboard, "Are you the Horseman?" Text yes. And he foolishly texts yes. Foolishly, I don't know, nothing too foolish. And he meets the guy who did that. And it's a guy who basically wants to be his benefactor. I love this. I would love to have a figurine of like this. So yeah, so that's kind of the setup here. And you know, is he going to take this benefactor's money? Are there strings attached? Who is this guy? We find out more about that in the last 2/3 of the book. But you can see here, like, I think this art looks pretty good because we got some detail here, some contrast. And this looks good too. There's just some more pages I won't get into where, again, when you have those multiple frames like this, it just all blends together a little too much. I think we just need a little bit more styling there. But again, you really get a sense of the issues that Hector is dealing with, how he's, you know, not feeling like 100% useful, right? So, you know, he's like, you know, how are you, the therapist is like, how are you dealing with this? And Hector says, you know, I'm journaling and running. And the therapist is like, how's running working? And Hector's like, it only helps when I run. And, you know, the doctor tries to give him some medicine, and Hector says, you know, I don't want to take medicine. It feels like I have a blanket around my head. I'd rather feel bad than feel nothing. And to me, that's huge. That's something that I've heard many times. If you're new to the channel, I've mentioned before, I used to work in a military town, served a military community for 10 years of my life. And I learned so much and became such a better man because I got to work alongside and learn from the men who brought the military with them into civilian life. And so that shows that Chuck knows the character. He knows the kind of character he's going. And then he's like, for now, I'll just go to running, right? So I think there are a lot of people, a lot of characters would not have that kind of headspace. And that's what makes Hector so captivating to me. And then he hears a cry for help and he busts through a fence because he thinks, like, he even says, like, I don't think, it's conditioning, it's reactive, it's who I am. And it's just some people playing a game, you know, that old trope. So, you know, I think it's a great setup. It is, like I said, more dialogue-y, but it's good dialogue. This is the stuff that Marvel wishes they could do with their dialogue scenes. And so this is, you know, a really good setup. And you know, some people might complain that there's not enough action. That's not my complaint with this, because I think there's a lot of great character development here. And so you see a little bit of the art here. There's a lot more in towards the back, but I'm not going to go into that just yet. I love this first scene with the military. Like that coloring is good coloring. That harshness there, that's really good stuff. So so you can see a little bit here of kind of what the art looks like and kind of where the story's heading. Now I'm going to go into heavy spoilers. Again, I'm going to share one of my thoughts. Spoiler alert if it's going to be right, because I think there's something that I haven't seen anyone else hit. But if you're going to pause here, go check out the book. You can still get, of course, whatever covers are available. You always have the mass print cover D. I don't know if you'll have any more of this throwback cover. This was also a little bit of a complaint, and I don't know if I ever noticed this, if this is true about other ones. The text box here says surrounded by enemies, but he's about to meet his biggest fan. That doesn't really happen. He meets his biggest fan. He's not really surrounded by enemies. Seeing enemies. He's not surrounded by enemies. And then this action scene, this fight scene in a bar or saloon, that doesn't happen in the books. So we kind of got a little bit more of stuff is happening that it isn't happening. If anything, this comes from issue 2, which was interesting. So anyways, am I missing something there? I don't know. I feel like I didn't see this action scene. It might have happened towards the end. I'll take a look now. But anyways, overall, again, if you like the Horseman, if you want to see something of a new kind of vigilante, first of all, if you want to see something of a new kind of vigilante, Zaylan is where it's at. Punisher in space. Let's go. But this one is still your good ground level hero. Dude's taking out crime. He's trying to find his place in civilian life. And now he's got a way to actually do it. But he's got to keep secrets. He's got to stay on the down low. And of course, that adds, secrets are going to hurt someone. So I still think there's a lot of potential here. I am still in this for the long haul because I think Chuck's going to do some amazing stuff with this character. Now I'm going to get into heavy spoilers so we can nerd out about what's happening. So again, we've got Hector living with his sister. And we've also got the flash. So let me start with the flashback, and we'll kind of go page by page. I'm not going to sit here and read all the pages. Critical Thinker, is that his name? Critical Thinker? Not Thinking Critical, but Critical Thinker. Another great comic channel. He'll go through this page by page when he gets to the book, and he does a much better job at it than I do. But it's a little bit of that comic trope, right? He's got his buddies, right? And then he talks about how they each died one by one. You see the body for Deacon. You kind of see you don't see the body, but you see the death of Speed, the other guy. But the fourth guy, or I guess the third guy, okay? This is Rick. Hard to see the book here. This is Rick, and you don't see what took him out. You just see the gurney. You just see what we presume is the dead body. I'm wondering, not that he's going to show up anytime, but seriously, it could be like 15, 20 issues down the road. Rick is not dead. This is either a body double or it was staged. I don't know if Rick is dead. I don't buy it. I think there's something here where Rick can come back, and now Hector's got to face a ghost of his past, so to speak. And I'll be here for that. I'm excited for that one. I love this dialogue here. He's trying to, figure out how to get that feeling of purpose, how to get that feeling of, they call it an emotional rush of combat, and the running helps. And without thinking, he jumps into action when he hears a cry for help. But also, as with all good vigilantes, he says, I react before I can think about it. This girl's coming, he's going to kill me. It's all conditioning, training, and rage, right? And this goes into the old question, is what he's doing from purpose, or is there some selfishness to it because it's coming from rage and he knows that this is an outlet for him? It's almost like the Nobody. If you didn't watch the movie Nobody, fantastic movie. And he taunts some gangsters, and then he goes to his car and he just sits there and he starts saying, please, 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 because he wants them to pursue him so he can take them out, so he can take some of that rage out. So that same kind of internal characterization conflict is there. He's doing his training to go rescue the day. Also, it's an outlet for rage. It's not a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. So anyways, he literally crashes this party, finds out it was a nothing burger, and then has to go on with his day. I love this. I didn't do this in the light spoilers, but he tries to take up golfing. He's with his nephew, and he's like swearing like a pirate. He even tries to do mini golfing with his nephew, and he's just cursing it up. Dang it, son of a biscuit, mother, big old F-bomb, but I didn't say fudge. His sister has to lean into him, like, we don't talk like that. I didn't understand the dialogue, but this is so great. She's like, I have every parental control on the computer. I don't subscribe to any streaming services, and we monitor every movie, TV show, and comic book. And he's like, but you had one bad golf shot, and you turn into an R-rated movie. And she's like, why did you talk like that? Where did you learn to talk like that? But she's like, I try to protect my son from not hearing that garbage, and then you just let it all come spilling out on the putt-putt course. I thought that was adorable. I love that. I thought that was really, really cool. You see this here, like, I think maybe Joe Bennett has some more detail here, but it just got lost in the final inking. He's got a little bit of a butterface here. Same critique I have on the current Superman Unlimited with Quietly drawing that. It did get better but it's just a little too soft here. I think there needs to be a little bit more depth or detail or something here. Same thing like this here. I don't know. I just maybe he had too loose of pencils and they just went with the wrong lines. I don't know, but this doesn't look the best, I think. I do like it when they get rid of the background for moments like this. I think it's a very modern, almost like an almost Eastern thing too. But I like that. It's pretty cool. It really just kind of draws that tension there. So anyways, then you got him coming in you got him showing his job. He's surrounded by people doing the job. You notice that, the girl has to use the dolly. The boss says, I'd have to replace you with the forklift because of how much you're doing. So, I mean, this dude, he is well-trained. He's bulked up. He's a hard worker, right? And you've got, women around him just, carting things around. So he's a hard worker, right? He goes up to his attic and he's looking at his old stuff. And then Hector comes and finds him. Not Hector, Danny, his nephew. Danny comes and finds him. I don't like that Danny calls him Uncle Heck. Never heard anyone say that and call someone Hector Heck. But Danny, he's obviously he's still a young guy. He's painted almost. I mean, he's drawn almost to look like 8 or 10, but he's missing some teeth. I don't think you should be missing those teeth when you're this age. So that was a choice. They're talking about the good old days of being the Horseman, and a little bit of a recap here, where Hector is, talking about, why he hung up the cape, so to speak. He had to make a deal with Alpha Cord. Don't get in trouble, because he was trying to do the right thing, but he can't be going out there anymore. Again, here's that coloring too, right? Like his chin is way too bright. He almost looks, he's got his hairline's a little too high, his chin's a little too bright. And I think it's really an issue with the highlights here. And again, I'm not an artist. I'm just saying what I see here. And same thing here. We lose some detail in the shirt. Almost looks like a feminine figure, but it's just the coloring that does it. I just think that the coloring can be a little bit more contrasting on some of these scenes. Like this looks better because we got the harsher shadows here. But even this looks better. Although he's a little Wayne the Rock Johnson in this one. But anyways, I love this scene too. I thought this was cute. Mom's, he's obviously safe because he's upstairs, right? And Mom's in a wheelchair, so he knows he's not gonna get in trouble. But he's like, Hector's like, hey, don't tell your mom about this. Don't tell her that we were talking about the Horseman. Don't tell her that I was up here reminiscing about the suit and all that. And then Hector's like, hey, by the way, there's a movie this weekend I want to go see. It's rated R, but how about you take me to go see it? And Hector's like, is this blackmail? And his nephew's like, let's call it a negotiation. Like, I think that's something my daughter would do. So anyways, he sees the billboard, are you the Horseman? Text yes. He gets a meeting spot, shows up as the Horseman, and then we get the introduction of the benefactor, Cal. Is it Cal? I think it's Cal. Cal Buxton. Gorgeous shot right here. And this is actually what made me think, okay, why did we go with the outfit choices here? Now this is going to be based on Chuck. The outfit direction should have been done by Chuck. So I'm curious what's with the bumps on his gauntlet. I thought maybe this is for gripping, like maybe if he's on an uneven surface, this has some gripping. So if he's on like a greater than 45-degree angle, he can still be on that slope without falling. Maybe the gloves or the gauntlets can help him with that too. Also the chest piece is white. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was yellow. Let's see, here it's more red. I thought it was, and maybe it's just a different style of suit. I thought it was yellow, but maybe I'm just thinking of the hat because I have the hat and I wear it often. But it almost has that Punisher feel if it was yellow, like, hey, I need you to shoot here because this is where I'm most protected. Kind of like that Punisher. Another great run that Mike Baron did. I like the idea of the helmet having that little Spartan feathering on it, but I'm sure it's heavy and this could be used like almost a headbutt. Kind of like how Absolute Batman uses his ear pointers to be able to like stab things, Absolute Batman style. So I think this is like another way to have a weapon on here. I do like the choice of not having the mouth being visible. I think that's a cool choice. The rest of the suit is pretty tactical, pretty standard. We got the would you call them paulders here, the shoulder pads. But yeah, I was just mostly curious about the gloves there. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. So we find out we got tech bajillionaire Cal Buxton. He wants to finance the Horseman. We don't really get to know why, other than he's really just a fan, and he's a little mysterious like that. It's not made obvious in an obvious sense, but he does kind of just basically say, look, my home's here, my business is here, I want to keep it safe, I think you'll keep it safer. I don't think that's the real reason. I think there's some underlying motivation here. He's either capturing data, he wants to create his own alpha core, because I think he even talks about how alpha core can get in the way later in the book. So I think there's something here. I think kind of like Tesla's not a car company, it's a data company. I think he's using Horseman not as a vigilante, but as data. I think that's what he's going to be trying to capture here. So he basically gives Horseman $1 million in a duffel bag, and says, you know, hey, I'm trying to get him to get convinced. And here's where we get to where I think the misdirect is. Okay, so he says, you know, I was hoping that money would motivate him, but he's obviously going to need something else, right? He has principles, right? And so he says, it's not money. Cash is always such a simple solution, but I'll have to appeal to his precious principles, saying like, what's going to get him to become the vigilante again? What's going to get him to take up the not take up the mantle, but start being the hero again? So he said, fortunately, I anticipated this. Cal says, have we got our contingency plan in place? The woman says, yeah, if you think that'll be enough to bring him around. Cal says, oh, he'll come around, he'll be mine. And then we get the next scene where we find out that the neighbor girl has overdosed. She was apparently taking Adderall to study better, but it was laced with something else. It had fentanyl, and so she died. And that's very sad. And in the next scene, Hector decides to go ahead and don the mantle again and become the Horseman again. And he's going to take Cal's money. He sets up a secret base. Cal doesn't know where it is. Cal apparently owns like half of Flores Park, which is an interesting dynamic because I think Darren Fontano has a lot of, he owns a lot of Flores Park as well. So I don't know if he is in cahoots with Fontano or if it's just like the Kingpin and the different sections of, not Hell's Kitchen, but the different sections of New York are led by different leaders. Different portions of New York are apportioned. They're doing that right now real good in Ultimate Spider-Man. But I think Cal, he owns a lot of land. Maybe Fontana owns a lot of land. Maybe we find out that there's a huge underground network in Flores Park. I really love the development that's coming on here with that. But basically, he wires Hector money. He gets him. He basically uses dead drops to get him supplies because Hector doesn't want him to know where his secret base is. He says, I can't remember what it was. Cal deals with. Here we go. My first rule is secrecy. His first rule is deniability. So as long as Cal doesn't know where it is, he can say he didn't know where it was. So we get almost like a Batcave type thing where Horseman gets to choose an area that he can work in secret, and he has his own Batcave. And of course, he's already decked out here, John Wick style. He's building his own Batmobile tank. I'm not gonna call it a Batmobile. He calls it the Stallion, right? I think that's a great idea. The Jeep tank is called the Stallion, and his Batcave is called the Stable. Come on, guys. We are 100% in comic world, and I'm here for it. So this is the Stable. I got to stop calling it the Batcave. This is the Stable, and that's not the Batmobile. That's the Stallion. And we finally get to look at it here. Obviously bulletproof. I kind of like the night camo choice here. The camo choice, you always got to wonder, why are they wearing camo in urban landscapes? But I think this could work. This night camo, black and white. The way it could blend, I think it really could blend in. Probably a little too much white, but you could also, once he turns his light off, parks it in the shadow, someone would just think it's just objects there. So I kind of like that choice. I think it could work. It's not too far out of the realm of possibility. But that said, the girl that ODs, I don't think that was Cal. I don't think that was Cal's contingency plan. I'll tell you what I think it is in a second. So we get our first tease at an action scene, but we don't get the action scene because he sees a drug deal go down, but he senses something's not right, and he doesn't take action, and it's a good thing because Alpha Core shows up. And I don't like this art spread here. This is where it gets lost in the spine. And Michael Bancroft spoke to this a little bit in his review of The Horseman, Welcome to Flores Park. He talks about if you're going to do an art like this on a thick book, there's a certain way you have to manipulate the art where you add a few inches So it doesn't look right on paper, but once you put it in the spine, it lines up well. This almost looks just like as much as a misprint as Zaylin did. And I'm sure it's not. I'm sure technically it's correct, but it doesn't look right. Some of Ingrid's arm is just lost here, and her leg doesn't line up here. And that's just not, I kind of wish I had better light. Now, thankfully there's nothing huge going on here, but it does catch me off because just Ingrid, unfortunately, her face just gets warped into the spine. Everything else looks great, but that really took me out of the moment. Otherwise, it's a great piece of art. You got a lot of stuff happening in the background, some good stuff happening in the foreground. Brax just kicks this car or kicks the guy into the car. I love that. I think that's fantastic. What a great splash page otherwise. Yeah, so Hector gets mad at Cal because he's like, hey, you almost put me into the crap, and that's not okay. This happens again, I'm not doing this anymore. And Cal basically says, we got to get the team together to be a little bit better. And so he's got a team of 3 guys that his brain trusts. Girl says, hey, well, we just got to get to the CIs before the confidential informants before the cops do. And then we find out Hector is basically sleeping in. He's working too much, his sister says, and he's burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. And this is where you get to where I think is happening. She says, hey, how are you going to find someone? How are you going to meet someone? You're working yourself too hard, and you're never going to find someone. And he finds out that his sister has been seeing someone, but she's not going to tell him. She's not telling him about it. And of course, she doesn't want Danny to know about it. And so who is she seeing? We don't know. She's going to play it close to the chest. And she says, he can't know Danny because I don't want him to get attached to someone that might just be a casual date. And I can't tell you because you can't keep a secret. Here's what I think is going on. Are you ready for this? I think the guy that she's seeing casually, the guy that she's dating, is Cal. I think that is his contingency plan. I think the girl dying is a misdirect. Did I go past it? Yeah, I went past it. Here we go. So she says, fortunately, I anticipated this. Have we got a contingency plan in place as you directed? If you think this will be enough to bring him around. I think they arranged some kind of meeting with him and his sister, meet cute, if you will, and he's going to use that to manipulate Horseman. It wasn't the neighbor. Maybe the neighbor was like a contingency plan, but I think the contingency plan is that Cal is seducing Hector's sister to put pressure on him to do what he wants in Flores Park. So I think the guy that she's seeing is actually Cal. If it's not Cal, maybe it's someone in his brain trust, but his brain trust isn't exactly gym bros that you want to probably go out with. Let's see here. It was actually after this page. So here's his brain trust. Daltrey, that's Daltrey. Fat, that's Fat. And then obviously Prism, or what's her name? Prissy? Yeah, I don't think Hector's sister's dating her. All right, and then we get into the final action. They get a drop on a pill factory, a pill mill where fentanyl's getting over. And of course, because of the Great War separation, because Texas is more isolationist, there's no open border, so pills are made domestically. Interesting choice too with the drug manufacturers wearing the cat ears. Thought that was an interesting choice. Not sure. I want to hear the story behind that. And again, coloring. This is not as menacing as I thought it would be. The spittle, first of all, I hate spittle like this in shots. It blends right into the tooth. It just looks like his tooth is melting. Don't care for that. And this is, I just think there could be more here. I like the background. I like the drawing of it. Just the coloring, I think, is the main issue. This looks good though. I like the Dutch angle on the paneling too. Like this is just an everyday operation for them, but Horseman's gonna bring it and set them off balance. He's got a automatic shotgun mounted on his truck. I couldn't figure out the physics of it because he comes in here, he narrates his skidding, and they're obviously shooting at him. It's just tinking off the top. The gun comes out and is shooting, and it's just putting holes in all the bad guys. He pops out the side, starts shooting. And this is where I would be like turning the page, but guess what? There is no page to turn to because it ends here. He says, everyone get out. Everyone leave this place. He's speaking in Spanish, which I like that, they're not translating it. It's just like real life. I like that choice. First of all, it ends here. It says, everyone get out. he's mainly talking to the ladies, right? Because he's going to take out the bad guys. And he says, not you, cabron. And then that's it. To be continued in Horseman 2. That's it. There's no cliffhanger. Well, that is the cliffhanger. We're about to get to this sweet action scene we've been waiting the whole time. And that's it. It just ends. And then we get the covers. And then also it ends on a typo. That's not how you spell cabron. Now, maybe it's just different in this world, but cabron is no E at the end. Cabroni, I don't know what he's saying there. So that really just, I didn't like that. I thought maybe like he comes in here, tap, 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 and you know, he can come in here, say, hey everyone, get out. He stops the guy, and then maybe you turn the page, there's a guy with an RPG aimed right at the Horseman. There's a guy with an RPG behind him. Sometimes it's like, what's gonna happen? How's he gonna get out of this one? You know, maybe he comes in there and, you know, it's that whole, you make the plan, but then the plan has to fail and you have to overcome the fail of the plan. So maybe he comes in there, starts shooting everyone up, but then the shotgun falls or starts to explode or catches on fire. Or maybe he rounds up the senoritas, and as they're leaving, one turns around and you find out that actually they're the ones leading the operation, and he's got his back turned to someone with a gun. Like, I think there's really cool ways that you could end it on a cliffhanger, like the whole like, what's gonna happen next? But you don't, you get like the action's about to start, he's about to start bashing heads in, and that's it. That's the end. I'm not a fan of that choice, and the typo just makes it even worse. So, wow. So overall, like I said, you know, one of the reasons I can keep reading Marvel books and DC books is because I fall in love with the ideas of characters more than the execution. I love the idea of the Horseman here. I think the execution is very solid and definitely still better than anything else you find. Not anything else. I don't think it's as good as Ghost Machine. Sorry, not sorry. But it's better than almost anything you find in the local comic book shop. So that's my theories. I think Cal is dating Horseman's sister or seducing her. And I think maybe we'll get the moment where Danny like walks in on his sister and Cal, not hooking up, but you know, cuddling on the couch or saying goodnight after a date. And that's when you see it's Cal. Like, that would be a great comic book ending. That would be a great last page ending. Obviously, this next book's going to start off with some action. I'm sure it's going to be killer. But also, I don't exactly know what's going to happen next. Like, he's there. He's going to stop the drug ring. But is that going to be it? He's just going to like beat all the bad guys, take out the drug runners, and he's going to call Cal and say, "All right, next assignment, boss. Like, what's going to be the butt, right? What's going to be the butt?" I just feel like it's just setting up for an and then. But I trust Chuck to deliver something really good. All right, that was the longest review of one of the shortest Rippaverse books. But like I said, overall, I think you can see now that, you know, if I rate things on a 5-star system and I give it two of the points are for story, 2 of the points are for art. 1 point is for making me think like, oh man, wow. And 1 point is for making me go, whoa, like either a story beat or an action page, something that just makes me stop and go, whoa. So overall, I think this is gonna be 3.5. Story is a 2. Love the story. The story is a 2. The art is unfortunately gonna be, for me, a 1, maybe a 1.5 on a good day. I'm excited to read it, so right now it's like a 1.5. So that takes us up to 3.5, but there's no big whoa moment. There's no big what? And there's no big like, you know, oh, that was like, that made me feel something kind of thing. I mean, a little bit of that front there. So, you know, depending on the day, depending on how I'm feeling, I'm gonna give it a 3.5, maybe a 4 out of 5. But I think it's a solid B- on a scale of 1 to 100. If I was taking a math quiz, I'd still be happy with the results. But then again, I was a 3.5 GPA student. I just got by in my natural smarts. I didn't ever apply myself. So again, I really enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to talk about it, nerd out about it, let's nerd out about it in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more comic book videos, on Mondays I review everything that I read throughout the week in all of comics. Marvel, DC, back trades, back issues, Mike Baron. I get a lot of stuff from Mike Baron to read through. And then on Wednesdays I go through the new books that I get, both from my weekly pulls at my comic shop and consignment sales that I shop at through my comic shop as well. So if you like that stuff, let me know. Subscribe down below so you don't miss a video. Like this video if you like this video. If you did not like this review, that's fine. Just let me know by double tapping the dislike button. That lets me know you really didn't like it, and I definitely get the message. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Adios.